This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. I am so gratified to see that more and more people lately are spiritual, or at least they're open to it, and just wanting to learn more about it, looking for more in life, looking for answers, looking for connection, and happy that I've connected with her. She is the senior minister of a wonderful center for spiritual living in Asheville, North Carolina. She is Reverend Dr. Susie Shadle, and she is joining us on the program today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you for being here and exposing us to a wonderful center in North Carolina. And my first question here, and I don't even know the answer to this, so I'm curious like others are. The difference between a church and a spiritual center, how does that look?
Okay. I would say that a church tends to be a little bit more traditional in its Sunday celebration service.
Mm-hmm.
Often it is Christian or Christian focused. That's not to say that we aren't. We are Judeo-Christian based, but we're also open to all paths to God, all paths to spirit. So we're considered more spiritual than religious, if you will. And actually, we used to be known as a church. The reason we changed our name officially to Centers for Spiritual Living is because we were doing churches all over the world. And there are some countries like Russia where you cannot use the term church. And so those needed to become centers. And we decided it was a good idea for all of us to become centers because we really are centers for spiritual living, made up of people who are our centers of spiritual living. And that spirituality expresses itself in a multitude of forms. We do have a Sunday celebration experience, but we have all kinds of other things that we do as well. So we do concerts, we do things that have to do with the arts of every kind, because people find their spirituality in a multitude of forms and pathways. And we believe that all human expression is also spiritual expression. And so we find lots of ways for people to connect spiritually other than what looks like a more traditional Sunday celebration experience. So that hopefully that tells you a little bit about what we see as the difference. So there are similarities, but I would say we're a little broader maybe than a church.
Completely got it. And thank you for sharing that. It's you embrace my view of this, and we're just starting to talk about embrace community. That's what
Yes.
That's the word that's like smacking me over the head. It's fine. Church is fine, but this is truly a community connection in terms of what you're doing there at the center. Can we go to basics for a moment? Mm-hmm. Spiritual. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? How do you describe it?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, the contrast between religious and spiritual. Religion tends to pull people apart. As evidenced by centuries, including today, of wars over religion.
Yep.
Because it gets steeped in dogma. If you don't do it this way, then you're wrong. So spirituality has a tendency to bring people together. If by no other reason that they find common ground in some of the spiritual practices, like meditation. Most religions or spiritual teachings have some form of meditation as a spiritual practice, or some form of prayer as a practice, some form of contemplation or service to the greater good. So we find common ground there, and it tends to tap into, spirituality tends to tap into what is within us and all around us, rather than religion tends to tap into sort of a God that's out there somewhere. Whereas we believe in spirituality, that spiritual beingness is within us and all around us. So to me, spirituality is much broader, and it taps into every aspect of our lives, every aspect. So it's about personal growth. It's about everything we do.
Would you say part of it is also about just connecting, truly connecting with oneself?
Yes.
Hmm.
Often the path to discover Father, Mother, God, Spirit is to fully discover yourself. And when you fully discover yourself, you find Spirit, you find God. Or conversely, to believe that you found God is also to find yourself. And so it is that deep, deep connection with your authentic beingness, not the persona we've created, not our job description, but who we truly are from the inside out, not the outside in.
And by the way, I think the same way you do. And whenever I use the word spiritual, it's my program disclaimer. I say it's not about religion. If you want to connect it to religion, you can, but that's not what we're talking about. Because many times when you use the word spiritual, right away people are thinking religion, and that's not what I'm saying. And that's not what you're saying. It can if you want.
Yeah.
You
It can, yes, it certainly can encompass that,
Sure.
but it goes deeper and beyond it, in my opinion.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, Tell me about your journey, Susie. How did you get to this point with this center? And I guess your spiritual journey.
Yeah, it's interesting because as a tiny kid, I think that's when my journey started, when I was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, around that age. I was raised Catholic, and I I wanted to, when I was, ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a priest. And my older brothers were very quick to point out to me that that was not possible, that I couldn't even be an altar boy at that time. Now they do have altar girls,
Sure.
but
My daughter was one of them.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so they pointed out that was not an option. So what I realized was, as I grew up, was that I would either need to change my religion or change my gender. And so I took the easy route. I did not change my gender. I changed my religion, if you will. Um, and so, that urge to be a priest or a spiritual being just never really left me. And as I remember as a kid, I used to I'd make my little friends kneel, and I would give them Necco wafers for communion.
Uh,
As it turns out, our new Pope also did the same thing when he was a kid. So I guess I'm in decent
um,
company.
what's your favorite Necco wafer, by the way? Everybody
The
has
chocolate one, the chocolate one.
I agree. I like the white one as well.
Yes, it's a good
And I
one.
believe there's a darker one, which is like a licoricey kind of
Oh
flavor.
yeah, yeah.
I actually like that. A lot of people throw them away. I'll take them. But anyway, we digress.
There we go. Yeah. So the journey began when I was very young, that I felt called, I guess, in some way to be somewhat of a spiritual leader, I guess. Um and that always kind of hung in the background. But ultimately, as I got older and I went to college, I studied different religions while I was in college. And then when I came out of college, I ended up going into the business world, and I got into the corporate world and climbed up the corporate ladder, only to discover once I got to the very top that I was leaning the ladder against the wrong building. I really didn't want to be in that crazy dog eat dog rat race anymore. I had a very long and successful career, but finally I just said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. It's not really who I am, or it's not really contributing anything to the world. And
Mm,
so I just walked away, walked
wow.
away. And the first thing I did, though, was I started my own consulting business, and I did consulting and training for a while. And actually, that's what paid my way through ministerial school, when I really finally got real with myself and said, you know what, why don't you do what you're really called to do and be? And so I went to ministerial school. As I said, I paid my way through that with my consulting business. In fact, one of my biggest clients was Boeing. I did a lot of training and consulting at Boeing in Seattle. and then ultimately graduated from ministerial school, and I started a center in the Seattle area, and did that for 11 years, and then left there and did an online ministry for a while, and guest speaking and things like that, and consulting with churches and centers, and then ultimately, see, where did I go from there? I did some interim ministries where I was the interim minister while they were without a minister and helped them to find their next new minister. And then I was a senior minister at Unity of Sarasota for 5 years. And then after that, did another interim ministry and then came here. So I've been here about a year and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What a journey. And I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. I was raised Catholic, kids the same. And it was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they would say, "Hey, you have a great voice. Can you go up and read?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So they would ask me, put me on a schedule every couple of weeks, and I would read from the gospel. But to be very honest, I had no idea what I was reading. I was worried. I've been doing this forever. I was worried about the pronunciation. I would study it the night before. You can even hear it recited if you look on certain websites. There were certain times where I'd be reading and then I'd see, like the priest's face, like I'm thinking, I'm not doing this right. Like I'm looking at him. And
Yeah.
the whole feeling of, and I'm not being negative here, but that's not me. And the whole feeling of the formality of got to do this and got to do that, places here, put it's just not me. And that's great. But I felt disconnected. Going to be honest, felt a little depressed going to church. So I changed it up to a different church, more of a Christian church. I try to go as often as I can. But I feel a more community connection at that church. And I would also say it's sort of like a center too, because they got so much going on over there. It's just a change, and I feel it fits. And I detect that in you, that didn't fit you. Nothing wrong with it at all. But you gotta, and I love music too. So where I go, they have a good band.
Yeah, we have a lot of music as well.
Yeah.
Music's a very big deal. And I think one of the things that was very difficult for me as I got a little bit older in the Catholic Church, actually, I wasn't that much older when I kind of figured this out, but I had a very, very close relationship with God. Most people had an imaginary playmate. My imaginary, or actually not so much imaginary playmate, was God. I felt that like God was my best friend. And I was told as a young Catholic that your only access to God was through the priest. And I knew in my heart of hearts that that was not true, that I had a direct contact. And
I've never heard that before. It's like, what is the priest the handler? Like he's the PR person, you got to go through him. Like,
wow.
Wow.
And I'm coming from back in the day where the mass was in Latin also, which, totally, I had no clue what was happening, but yes, that we had to, the priest was our access to God. And I thought, that's not my experience. That's not what I'm experiencing. And that's one of the things that I love about our teaching with Centers for Spiritual Living, because we're all about that we are all interconnected. We are one, not only with spirit, but we're one with one another, that there is only one. And that realization changes everything in your life. When you realize that I'm one, even with what we might call my enemy, then all of a sudden everything changes. It's you become responsible for the well-being of others. Your highest priority is that we all thrive and do well in life. And so, that idea that I have that direct connection with God, and I also have a direct connection with other people.
Now, within the center, if I'm correct about this, you practice the science of mind philosophy.
Correct.
What is that?
It was developed by our founder, Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes. And what he did was he studied all the major religions and spiritual traditions in the world, both from ancient times all the way to modern times. He also studied philosophy and science, and he synthesized what he saw as the universal golden thread within all of that. And in fact, he called our teaching a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion applied to the needs and aspirations of humankind. And so he was all about taking everything available to us and using those tools in a relevant and contemporary way to really impact our lives while we're alive, not in the afterlife, but right here, right now, today, so that we have, and he took a scientific approach. That was the science part of it. And science was just coming to the fore when he was developing this philosophy, this teaching. And he believed in science. He believed that science was provable, and he believes that our spiritual teaching is provable and can be duplicated, that you can do it over and over again, and that there are certain tools that you use and you can be assured of the outcome. And the philosophical part was really understanding how the human experience evolves and unfolds. And then certainly the religious part, he called it religion. However, it was really more spiritual. And originally our name was the Church of Religious Science, which was an odd thing to put religion and science together in those days. It was very cutting edge. Now you see that happening all the time. But the science of mind is really about how does the mind work in such a way, and along with our feelings and emotions, to literally create the experience of our human reality, that we have an impact on creating the life that we choose to live. And we do that through our mind. And
Let's go there. Let's talk about that. Some may loosely call that manifesting. What
Yes.
you think becomes your reality.
Yes.
I've never heard someone with a spiritual connection, call it maybe a little religious connection, ever talk about it. We talked about metaphysics.
We use the term manifestation all the time, that
Wow.
we demonstrate a manifestation based on the creative process, which is it's to take a thought seed from spirit and to plant that seed in a seed of intention, that we get all of our inspiration, if you will, from spirit, from God. And then that is the seed thought or idea or intention that we plant in the soil of our soul. And so we've got our head and our heart, if you will, our head and our emotions working together to literally manifest an experience or a thing itself. And so our teaching symbol actually it's a big circle with what looks like a V in the middle of it. And then there's an upper section, a middle section, and a lower section. And that is spirit, mind, and body, or spirit, soul, and experience. And literally what the V, which is not a V, it is the descent of spirit into form. And then it goes back out into the no thingness from whence it came to be recreated into new form and experience. And it just keeps going, the creative process. And we do that through what we call affirmative prayer. And it's a way of having a logical and scientific argument with yourself and your own mind and heart for you to move to the belief in what it is that you want to experience and to manifest that experience in your life.
Wow. This is very refreshing and unexpected. Let's put it that way. I very much mean that. I've done many with life coaches, those who are connected with the metaphysics and all of that.
Yeah,
But
and that's what we are. We
Interesting.
are applied metaphysics. We're known as a new thought religion, which is not new. It just means we can have a new thought about an old idea. And by changing our thinking, we can change our lives. And so it's new thought as opposed to new age. New age is, crystals and tarot cards and things like that, which we certainly respect, but it's not part of our teaching necessarily.
Hmm.
But it's not the same as new thought. New thought really is about it. You see some elements of it in the transcendentalists like Emerson and folks like that. Um, but new thought again is not, it's not new necessarily. It's been around for a while,
Hmm.
but it is about our ability to change our thoughts, and by changing our thoughts we change our experience.
It's funny. I haven't heard the term "new age" used in forever, and I've for some and because of that, I used to hear it when I was much younger. I kind of
Hmm.
abandoned it, and I never connected it with these things called metaphysics now. And yeah, crystals, yeah, I got them. Tarot cards, I play with them, whatever.
Yeah,
And I respect this. I have no judgment whatsoever on
yeah,
anything. But thank you for the new thoughts. This is quite different. Um,
yeah, yeah. New thought is pretty, it's pretty amazing. It's very powerful. Our mind is way more powerful than we sometimes realize, and so is our heart. The heart uh, actually is more powerful even than the brain. And when they're working together, we're unstoppable.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm in my journey, I'm learning that more and more, that it's not up here, it's right here. This is
Right.
where it's all got. It's got brains connected to it, and not the
Right.
one in your head. Um,
Yeah. Well, the ancients thought for a long time that the brain was located in the heart.
wow.
I think it'd be a good place to put it back.
Right. Like, or have that thought.
Yeah.
Do you believe we're here to create?
Yes. I think we are part of the creative process. We've been given the power to create and to recreate. And but you have to do it consciously. And we're unconscious a good deal of the time. I believe we're creating all the time. If we're thinking, we're creating. And the problem is that much of the time we're creating unconsciously, and we end up in some situation go, oh my God, how did I end up here? Well, if you trace it back, you'll figure out that, oh, okay, yeah, if I'm always saying, gee, I never have enough money, guess what? I never have enough money. You're
Spot on.
affirming that,
Spot. Completely
and you're
agree with you.
manifesting what you're affirming.
I'm right there with you. It's like when you wake up and it's like you spilled your coffee, and instead of cleaning it up and moving on, look at it that way. What kind of day is this going to be? Well, the
Exactly.
kind you're asking for. And it's like what our parents used to say back in the day: be careful what you ask for because you'll get it. Well, there's truth in
Exactly.
that. Like,
Yeah, they had no idea how smart they were.
I know. And as I get older, I hear all those things that my mom used to say, and they're true. And
Yeah,
they're true.
exactly.
But as a kid, you don't know, you don't realize. But I think also we're in a different mindset at this point in time where we're more open to things that are spiritual and thinking like that, said the
Mhm.
man who has a vision board right over here.
There
Um,
you go.
why not? Why not?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Well,
Susie,
it's interesting. I have a little folder that has a vision board I did while I was in ministerial school. And every now and then I get that out and I look at it again, and I am stunned at how right on that vision board was for the unfoldment and the journey of my ministry.
I
It's
love
as
hearing those.
true today as it was the day I put it together.
I love hearing that. That is just inspiration, excitement for the rest of us that this stuff really does work. And I've heard stories after
It really does.
stories. And I know it works because I would think certain thoughts that might have been negative in terms of my life or situations or whatever. And it turned out exactly the way I was thinking. So I kind of reverse engineered it. Susie, refreshing talking to you. Really
Thank you.
love
Thank
our
you.
conversation. Obviously, Asheville, North Carolina is where you're located if somebody wants to physically take advantage of the center, but people can connect with you virtually by way of live streams and all of that.
Right.
What's your website? How do we find you?
It's just cslasheville.org. And remember to put ASHE-ville. It's not ASH-ville.
Gotcha.
So that's the website, and you can watch us live on the live stream or catch the recording later. And we do hybrid classes as well. So some of our classes are both in person. In fact, most of our classes are in person and on Zoom simultaneously. So you don't have to be here to partake. For some of the extracurricular stuff we do, we've created what we call the community commons to draw the community in and be a gathering place for the community. So we do a lot of concerts and art type of stuff, all kinds of different activities. And most of those you'd kind of have to be here for. So if you visit Asheville, which a lot of people do, you come see us. We've got something going on all the time. Something good is always happening here.
Don't you guys also have great furniture? Isn't that like the furniture manufacturing capital of the world?
Actually, parts of North Carolina are. I understand that's kind of changing, which is kind of sad. But Asheville is really a very eclectic place, lots of creativity and arts. And you'd find everything from, like most communities, but it seems more here, from homeless people to the filthy rich and everything in between. It's a very eclectic place, but it's very interesting and very creative space. There's an energy here that's very powerful.
As is yours.
Thank you.
As is yours. Yeah, wonderful talking with you. Thank you for bringing this to light. Never heard anything like this before. Heard of pieces of these things, but never in one center. And fantastic. Looking forward next time we get together.
And we've got centers all over the world. So, just check it out. Look for Center for Spiritual Living and wherever you are, and likely you'll find one nearby.
Appreciate it. Yeah. We'll talk next time.
I guess I'll see you next week.
You got it. All right. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.